I'm Lana Smith. I was born in Russia and I lived in Russia like first part of my life. Then I moved to United States and I am a piano teacher and I live in United States over 25 years, so I will not tell you exactly how old I am just because. But anyways, I have quite an experience teaching people in Russia and in America, and that kind of gives me a good advantage because I know beautiful classical style, but I also love beautiful genres of American music, and I like Latin music, rock and roll, blues, just you name it, anything. Folk music is of different nations is always very beautiful, very precious type of styles that I really like, and that's what I really like. I like teach my students. I like to be with people who are very special to me because they love music, and this is very special people come into my studio to do very special things, and that's why I really like my job. My actually not, I wouldn't say job, it's the destination of my life. I grew up in a very beautiful place in the earth. It is the city of Yalta, and it's on the Black Sea. It's very beautiful. It's a resort town. When people ask me about, oh, you probably love cold, you like snow because you're from Russia. Like, guys, imagine that Russia is a big country. It's a really big country, and think of United States the same way. Is it cold in United States? Depends on where. If you are in Alaska, of course it's cold. If you're in Florida, I don't think it's cold. So I'm from very, very south with the palm trees and beautiful parks, cedar trees, mountains and beautiful beaches. So that really make me really loving nature. I used to be a tour guide in summertime in mountains, and it was a lot of history in those mountains. It's a lot of beautiful scenery and very interesting tours with really interesting people I met throughout the 15 years I was doing the tour guide job. In summer and in winter I was teaching in music school. I was teaching children to learn all about music, and basically that's what formed me as a musician and as a photographer, a artist, and I guess just person who loves to communicate with people. Well, I grew up in a musical family, and my mother was a teacher in music school, children music school, and she was a conductor of the choir. And she is very educated person, and she also loves all kind of arts. She took me to listen to the music when I was 5 years old. She took me to listen symphony orchestra performances, and of course, being 5 years old, I was really sitting there like and waiting, like, oh, mom, when we go home, oh, I cannot do it. And finally, I understood that I have to sit all of those 2 hours, and I start watching the musicians what they were doing and listening. Kind of, we sit on the very top. I can look down from the top on the orchestra, and I can see how the violinist was doing and what the other instruments doing, and kind of start connecting in my mind how what instruments sound, and that really helped me to later on when I become a professional musician to do arrangings for the symphony orchestra, because I just look at the piano score and I can hear exactly what instruments will play where if I'll do it for orchestra. And my mom was a big impact on me because she also took me to all different beautiful cities in Russia, like St. Petersburg, Moscow, and we went through lots of museums where we saw all kinds of beautiful paintings of the Western and Russian painters, artists. She was teaching me about architecture. She was teaching me about different styles and times, genres, and everything. So she was great impact on me. And when I teach music, I think a lot of times I have the analogy with certain paintings and certain styles. I could say that when you're playing the melody and you're playing the background, it's kind of similar to what is going on in the visual art, because you need to understand that background in visual art is kind of blurred, but the main subject is supposed to be bright, kind of the same thing as melody and background. Anyways, that's a lot of my friends also give me a really good impact on my ideas and everything, because we shared a lot of fun hiking in mountains and exploring nature, exploring history, and I think that's all wonderful. I was a happy person surrounded with very interesting people. How I became a musician? That was very funny story. Mm, and since I grew up in the family of musicians, my father was playing viola, and my mom was a choir conductor. They always had classical music, listen like sounding in the house, and I grew up with it. And really, for me, it was nothing really new. Funny thing that comparing to all the classical pieces that were around me, my favorite records at the time when I was listening when I was 5, it was actually Cinderella by Prokofiev. And Prokofiev is a Russian composer of 20th century, which is like he has classical elements in it, but has a lot of modern music things. And I kind of inclined towards that versus, let's say, Beethoven's symphonies. And by the time when I was about 11 or 12, let's say, I could pick up some songs by ear and it was okay. Uh, I was not that much interested. And my friend brought a record of Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald singing Summertime. Man, that was the opening eyes moment, because that's the music. That's something totally fresh and new I never heard before. And I was listening it and listening, and then very soon I knew every note of it by ear. I heard like in my head of the whole orchestra. I don't have to start my record player because I remember how it sounds. It was with me. And then I come to the piano and start picking up. Of course, I pick up the melody, but then George Gershwin's harmony to pick up by ear right away without experience, hearing it first time in your life, that was quite a challenge. And I tried and tried. Finally, I decided that I need to learn how to read that stuff. And I come to my mom and ask, can I start learning piano? And she says, no, you're 12. In Russian schools, you're starting at 7, and they teach you really, really hard way all the way to the end of that music school, and then you basically become a professional if you survive. Out of 100 people who started in first grade of music school, probably 8 or 10 survive to the end. So yeah, because it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of you have twice a week a special instrument, specialty instrument, and you have solfeggio, ear training, you have the music theory lessons, you have music history lessons, you have duet playing, or if you're playing any other instrument than piano, you have an orchestra, or you have a choir. Man, you're busy. It's in addition to your regular school. So you go to your regular school first, and then you all week you're busy. You come home tired when you see it. You need to play at least couple hours on piano because you have next lesson is 2 days. You need to get ready. So not everybody survives. And imagine at the age of 12, I decided to catch up with everyone. And I said, I will do everything. I will practice like 5-6 hours a day, but I will do it. And I did it. So basically, I finished music school together with other kids who started at 7. And then I went to music college and become a specialist in music theory and composition and music history. You just name it, all kind of stuff. And after that, the highest level of education is so-called conservatory. In Russia, it's basically a master's degree in music education. Well, in 1990s, political changes in Soviet Union was drastic, and actually Soviet Union is not existing anymore, and economical part was really, really hard at that time. And somewhat in Russia at that time was like in Wild West in the United States in the end of 19th century, middle of 19th century. It was very hard to survive, and I always wanted to actually to see certain places that I dreamed about, and it was one of the canyons in west of United States. It was my big dream. I always wanted to come to the place where jazz was born because I love jazz, and it was kind of inclined me towards thinking about moving to United States versus, let's say, I don't know, France or Italy, even though I really like to see those countries someday. And so in 1998, me and my little son, we moved here, and I am glad I did, because after some time of adjustment, I was able to start my own teaching piano studio, and that's what I'm doing until now. I think it's more about the way of people living, the traditions, the common things that are not common for the other country where I came from. It wasn't language really, because I could speak some English at that time. Let's say I never had credit cards. Right now everybody in Russia has credit cards, but remember, it was 1998. I did not know what is credit card and how to use it, and when you open all this paperwork from bank, it's hard to understand what they want to say, because on just communication level my English was okay, but on the bureaucratic language it's still not there, by the way. And certain things, like in Russia, we don't have that small talk. Yeah, I came to the store and they checking out, and the girl asked me, "How are you doing?" And I'm thinking, like, what the heck? Who you are? Do you know me? I don't know you. Why do I need to tell you how I'm doing? Because in Russia, it's personal question. It's friends meeting with friend and friend meeting, and so how are you doing? Oh, my wife did this. My children go to there, and then I just like have a new job, and you keep telling how you are doing. And imagine this: I am coming to States, and then person I see first time in my life asking me how am I doing. Why do I need to tell you how am I doing? That cultural things are different. Now a lot of people more connecting, and I guess for new generation of Russians, it's not that wild how it was in 1998. Something like this. Or I came to McDonald's drive-through. I didn't know how to use drive-through, and I came there, and that was Florida, and the guy was saying me something. I like, what? That's how it hurt to me, because I couldn't understand what he's saying. And I say, I don't understand you. And he said, I don't understand you at all. And I drove to him and I started telling him I want this and this, and he couldn't understand my Russian accent, and I couldn't understand his southern accent. And finally I drove off, drove away, hungry. I didn't get it. That's okay. I learned. So little by little. And so this probably was the kind of interesting parts. In generally, finding your place in a new country, that was probably the most challenging because I took computer classes because I didn't know what profession to choose here. I wasn't sure if I can make money by teaching piano. I learned, get my certifications in Microsoft as a network engineer. And guess what? I worked as a tech support for certain companies for a while until I moved to Colorado Springs, and then I started looking for tech jobs here, and it was hard to find because everybody wanted the database engineers at the time, in addition to network engineers, in addition to this and this and this, and plus 10 years of experience. Like, where do I get the 10 years of experience? So I decided whatever comes first, either if students will come first, I will be teaching. If the tech job will be here, I will be tech person. And students came. So that's the listen to what God say.
Did that have an impact on your artistic style? I guess the struggles and the hardship of that time period and that adjustment period, did that impact your art or your feelings towards music in any way?
Actually, not at all.
No?
No. What it really impacted me, it was really hard for me because the adjustment time is always hard. First 3 years in the United States is hard, especially if you never used credit cards, you don't know how to do this and that. That was more like survival skills I learned. It, I think, gave me more of the business skills versus understanding music, because music was part of me, was always. But this is more like a business type of skills, I would say. When I worked in Russia, we were all hired by the government schools that actually depend on government, and they all depend on these certain programs that was developed for us, and certain instructions that we need to follow, and certain documents we need to file. And it was a lot of that stuff instead of just like when I'm teaching now, I teach in what I want to teach, and I teach in how I feel like to teach correct. And since my studio keeps growing, I guess I'm doing a pretty good job so far. And that gave me a freedom of developing my own business instead of depending on all those instructions and bosses who tell me what to do. Earth without art is just because I think when you're creative, you have a special drive to create things. Not necessarily, it can be not a music, it can be anything. It can be interview taking, it can be I don't know, talking with people, explaining them something, maybe making something beautiful for house. Anyway, something that brings your mind working and your soul working, that really keeps you going in life. Because if you have everything and you have no art, then what? That's probably a beginning of depression. Because you have nothing to love, you have nothing to create, you have nothing to do. What to do? Nothing. People doing it for you and you doing nothing, so this is depression. And guess one of the most big problems right now for people is depression. A lot of people are depressed. And guess why? I think because they just using things that the other people creating for them, but they're not creating themselves. See what I mean? I think that all the art and not only art, that anything that you're creating is really a big impact, not only for you, but also for the society. You know, I have one student who she's a little girl, and she played like already about 20 pieces. She just started learning, and I asked her, like a lot of my students, what is your favorite piece or pieces? And she was like, I love them all. It's like no, absolutely one favorite. No, I love them all. And that's wonderful because the more things you love, the happier person you are. And what inspiration you have, the more things you love, you know, just inspired by all things that you love. Yeah, for me it's nature, it's my garden, it's my flowers, I see how they grow, and it's mountains, it's travels. I really like to travel in different cities and different countries and see how people live there, and what nature is looking there, talking with people and see how their traditions are, see beautiful architecture, um, just anything, little things that are different from what I used to. That actually really great inspiration. And I have a YouTube channel where I start doing my travel videos. I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't have any income from it. I have nothing from it. I just doing it because I want to share with people what I saw, let's say, in Costa Rica, and what I saw in Spain. In Spain, it was awesome. We had great trip because we didn't go to the beaten path. Like everyone goes to Barcelona. We didn't go to Barcelona. We saw everything all around, and I would say we did not see much Americans. We saw a lot of Chinese people. We saw French, German, um, and Spanish people. Thanks to them, you know, they love their own culture. They come and just go into those museums and see, learning about history, which is great. And learning about history of the place, I think it's big inspiration because you know how people lived before, and then you compare what you live now. It's very interesting, exciting. The world is so huge with different things to see, and you know, just share it with people. I think that's the inspiration. I like some people who have a really strength in the character to overcome any kind of hardship. Mm, I would say that was the Wild West explorer, Powell, who had one arm, and he was the one who first get on the boat and go through the Grand Canyon with one arm. And it was lots of unfriendly tribes around him, and he was peaceful man enough to talk with them, that they become friends. And to me, it's like one of the good role model. That's others people too. You know, one of the interesting stories I could tell is I grew up in totally communist country, Soviet Union, where they claimed that God doesn't exist, and they raised all the children and adults that religion is like not a good thing and stuff like that. Anyways, I never kind of buying those propaganda, and I knew that something really existed. I didn't have like a formal religious connection. Just because of that, I grew up without church. I grew up without anybody who would go to church. But when I moved to States, I first 3 years it was very hard on me, and I had interesting story when I had a car that my first car that I bought, and it was upside down credit on this car, and I tried to refinance it because it was terrible, and I went to the dealership and they say like, no, we cannot do it. And I tried to do all dealerships and they say like, no, 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 no. And then one of them say like, if you come to our promotion site, whatever it is, we will give you 3 golden coins. And I said, my little son, like, do you want 3 golden coins? Let's go. And we come there, and he got his 3 coins, and I start talking with manager, and he again told me, like, no way, you cannot do it. And just like, what, go ahead and put your name on the card and put it in the box. Kind of lottery on that dealership. I said, okay, I put it, and I went. And God knew that I tried everything I could out of myself, and I really need help. And guess what? In a week after that, I received a call from dealership, and they say, just don't hang up, because it's not a joke, it's not a spam. You really want $10,000. And it was 2003. $10,000 at that time was big deal. And like, really? Okay, what do I need to do? Just dress up nice, come, and we'll give you the, we will do some pictures for the newspaper, and we'll give you money. And I came there, and I got my money. I still have that huge advertising check that says my name on it and $10,000. And God knew I needed it. And I went, and in that moment, when I got it, I came home very happy, and my car started braking. I mean, I was driving, and the car starts stopping. Every time when they start turning, it stops, like, and I was afraid that the traffic will just smash me, and I like, what can I do? It's not going. Then it finally goes, and then until the next moment when I slowing down, it stops in the middle of traffic. And I'm like, what can I do? I wanted to refinance this car, right? Okay, and turns to that, like, God tells me I need to change it. And I went to the dealership, and they took it to ride. And I was sitting like, just don't stop, please don't stop. And I didn't. It was doing perfect. Very nice. Yeah, by the way, I took this car to the repair shops, and they looked at it, and they say everything's fine. And it was riding fine, and then I get out of it, and it's stopping. I felt like, it's a sign. And I came, and I get rid of this car and bought another car. And I still have a little bit money left. And guess what I did? I bought my first piano, my own first piano, and I started my studio. So without God's help and hope and your hard work, it would not happen. But it happened. Let it be inspiration. God is here for us, and He is helping. He is helping. I think I had a lot of those stories that, some kind of more personal. And I totally believer. Explore the world. Explore past, because past has a lot of treasures, and unfortunately every generation forgets a lot compared to the next generation, and next and next. But at the time, the next generation learns a lot of new stuff. They gain a lot of information that is new, but they kind of forget the old stuff. And sometimes something new is the well-forgotten old. That's what Russian proverb says. You start learning history, you see that history keeps repeating. Just like it goes in spiral, but it comes to the same points in the history that repeats. So it's sometimes good to learn history.